Genghis Khan, also known by the names Chinggis, Genghis, or Jinghis, and Temujin, also spelled Temujin, was a Mongolian warrior ruler and one of history's most illustrious conquistadors. He united the tribes of Mongolia into one nation and then expanded his empire across Asia to the Adriatic Sea. Genghis Khan was a brilliant warrior and king who united all the Mongolian nomadic tribes under his and his family's control in a strict military state after beginning his rule in obscurity and insignificance. A series of campaigns of pillage and conquest that eventually took the Mongol armies as far as the Adriatic Sea in one direction and the Pacific coast of China in the other led to the establishment of the Great Mongol Empire. He then turned his attention to the inhabited peoples outside the boundaries of his nomadic realm. Only non-Mongol sources, with the exception of the Secret History of the Mongols, 1240, include information that is close to contemporaneous with Genghis Khan's life. Nearly all authors, including those who served the Mongols, have focused on the immense destruction brought on by their invasions. Even though his generals frequently worked independently, without direct command, Genghis Khan must share the reputation of his people as the creator of the Mongol nation, the architect of the Mongol army, and the brains behind their campaigns. It would be incorrect to interpret the Mongol campaigns as accidental raids by bands of roving barbarians. It's also untrue, contrary to what some have assumed, that these efforts were somehow prompted by Inner Asia's progressive desiccation, which forced the nomads to seek out new pastures. Again, the Mongol invasions were not a singular occurrence. Genghis Khan was neither the first nor the last nomadic conqueror to wreak havoc on the populated edges of Eurasia after emerging from the steppe. Simply put, compared to other leaders, his campaigns were more extensive, effective, and successful. They affected a larger portion of the Eurasian continent and a wide range of various societies, and they had a more violent impact on those sedentary peoples who had the habit of writing down occurrences. Even though they had completely different ways of life, two societies that were constantly in contact and antagonistic toward one another were yet interdependent. The southern staple goods were necessities for the nomads, who also wanted its luxuries. These might be acquired by trade, by taxing nomadic caravans, or through armed raids. The settled populations of China had a reduced need for the products of the steppe, but they could not ignore the existence of the nomadic barbarians, and were always engaged with finding ways to fend against incursion. A powerful dynasty, like the Manchu in the 17th century, could immediately exercise military dominance over all of Inner Asia. Other times, the Chinese had to play off one group of barbarians against another, shifting their allegiances and shifting their sources of support to keep any one tribe from dominating the battlefield. Temujin defeated the Merkid with the aid of strong friends and his own army, using a tactic he often used to snuff out potential future uprisings. Years later, before approaching China, he would first make sure that no nomad commander survived to stab him in the back. He endeavored never to leave an adversary in his rear. Temujin then began the methodical eradication of all enemies. Jamuka's successive coalitions were overthrown. They wiped out the Tatars. Togrul allowed himself to be influenced by Jamuka's schemes, as well as by his own son's aspirations and suspicions, leading to the destruction of both he and his Karaite people. Finally, in the west, the Naiman monarch attempted to establish yet another coalition with Jamuka's help out of fear of the Mongols' growing might, but was soundly defeated and lost his realm. Jamuka, as erratic as always, abruptly left the Naiman Khan. Temujin became the ruler of the steppes as a result of these campaigns that took place in the few years prior to 1206. Temujin was crowned Genghis Khan that year at a large assembly held near the river Onan. The title likely meant universal ruler. The year 1206, when the Mongols were finally prepared to venture beyond the steppe, was a turning point in both their own history and the history of the entire world. Even Mongolia itself changed. The small-scale raids and tribal disputes were history. The traditional clan and tribe structure had either been destroyed, or the recognizable tribe and clan names had stopped being used, as evidenced by the fact that names bearing them could still be found scattered throughout the Mongol globe. Genghis Khan personally created the unified Mongol country, which has endured through numerous vicissitudes, feudal fragmentation, impending retribalization, colonial occupation, to this day. The goals of the Mongols extended beyond the steppe. Genghis Khan was prepared to go on his grand mission to conquer the entire globe. The new country was set up primarily for war. The soldiers of Genghis Khan were well-equipped, well-supplied, and strictly disciplined. They were also divided up according to the decimal system. The generals were guys he himself chose or his own sons who were utterly devoted to him. The Mongols still had more of their great conquests to make before they became a global force. The main objective was China. In 1211, Genghis Khan attacked the Jin dynasty in northern China, after securing his western flank with a bloody campaign against the Tangut Kingdom of Xixia, a Chinese frontier state to the northwest. He allowed himself to be briefly bought off, with a significant quantity of loot in 1214, but efforts were resumed and Beijing was captured in 1215. His general Macaulay was thereafter in charge of a more organized subjugation of northern China. Genghis Khan was driven to abandon his plans to conquer China in favor of Krezm, the Otrar city governor, who murdered a caravan of Muslim traders who were under Genghis Khan's protection, started this battle. Krezm Shah turned down satisfaction. The time for war with Krezm would undoubtedly have arrived sooner or later, but it could no longer be put off. The Mongols developed their reputation for ferocity and terror throughout this conflict. The residents of each city that was stormed were either killed or made to act as advance troops for the Mongols in battles against their own people. As Genghis Khan pursued his unrelenting wrath against the Krezm royal family, he ruined irrigation systems and ravaged fields, gardens, and other agricultural areas. In 1223, he ultimately withdrew, and until the final campaign against Xixia in 1226 to 1227, he did not command his men into battle once more. On August 18, 1227, he perished. I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. If you're afraid, don't do it. If you're doing it, don't be afraid. An action committed in anger is an action doomed to failure. I am the flail of God. Had you not created great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. There is no value in anything until it is finished. Conquering the world on horseback is easy. It is dismounting and governing that is hard. The greatest happiness is to vanquish your enemies, to chase them before you, to rob them of their wealth, to see those dear to them bathed in tears, to clasp to your bosom their wives and daughters. A man's greatest joy is crushing his enemies. With heaven's aid, I have conquered for you a huge empire. But my life was too short to achieve the conquest of the world. That task is left for you. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.